Today we're going to be talking all about Adobe Illustrator. In the next 3 videos, I will teach you all of the basics you need to know to create a logo or an icon or pretty much anything else you can come up with using Adobe Illustrator. Okay, once we open up Illustrator, this is what we're going to see. We can see some files that I've recently worked on that I could reopen. There's some templates that I could use, but we're going to go ahead and click Create New, and this will open up a pop-up window here that says New Document. So we'll go ahead and put in a name for our document. I'll just do logo. You can add in a name later once you save it, and so it'll just be untitled until you actually save what you're working on. It's up to you whether you want to put in a name right at the beginning or right at the end. There's not really a right or a wrong way to do it. Here is where we can add in the size of our artboard, and we'll talk about artboards in a second. Right now it's 11 by 8.5, which is about the size of a normal printer piece of paper. And if I wanted to switch it so that it's 8.5 by 11, I could come in and type 8.5 by 11, or I could just hit one of these little guys and it'll flip them. So that way you don't have to go in and type things if you are wanting to change its orientation, just click on it. Here is where you can change from inches to pixels or millimeters or picas. I typically only work with inches or pixels just because I don't really do millimeters or centimeters very often. And picas and points have to do more with typography and the size of the lettering. So typically, you'll probably be working with inches or pixels. We'll just leave it at inches for now. And we'll go ahead and hit create. And it should open up a new artboard for us, a new document with an artboard. So this is the artboard right here, this white rectangle. I like to think of it as this gray area is my desk, and this white is the piece of paper that I'm working on. So although I can put things over here, I can maybe create a square or a circle. I can keep things over here in the gray area of the document, but when I save it and export it, only the things that are in the white area are going to be saved and exported. If you save it as an Illustrator file, it'll save all of it, but just remember that you want to pretty much be working in your artboard whenever you create something. That way you can just say, I want to export this artboard. So let's delete those. If you want to create a new artboard, let's zoom out. To zoom out, I'm just hitting Command minus, and to zoom back in, you'd hit Command plus, but zoom out. To create a new artboard, I'm gonna hit Shift O on my keyboard. So this is the artboard tool. I can now draw a new artboard, whatever size I want. It's always going to be a rectangle though. I can select an existing artboard, click on it, and hold Alt while I drag, and that will copy and paste a copy of the artboard. Or I can draw an artboard and then change its size. So right now it's 8.94 by 5.31. You can see that up here in the right corner. Let's say I want to make it exactly 9 by 6. So let's type in 9 here, and we'll type in 6 here. Voila, that gives me exact measurements. So that's 3 ways that you can create an artboard. To delete an artboard, just select the one you want to delete and hit delete on your keyboard. We'll delete all of these except for our original one. And then to get back to your mouse or your selection tool, which is this guy right here, you can click here, or you can hit V on your keyboard. And we'll talk a lot more about these tools next time in the next video, but just remember that this right here, your selection tool, is pretty much just a basic mouse for all intents and purposes, and if you need to get to it, hit V on your keyboard or click right here. The next thing we're going to talk about is panels. So panels are these guys over here on the right, but if I click on these arrows right here, I can see all of them expanded, or I like to just keep them hidden out of the way so that I have a larger workspace. And these are some things that I have saved that I use pretty frequently. And you can click and drag things once they're open to keep them here. But let's say that you don't see something over here that you want to use. So right now I've got like my align, I've got my character, pretty typical things, but I really want to be able to use something that I don't see over there. We're gonna come up here and click on a window. And all of these right here are gonna be panels. So let's go to the Pathfinder. Oh, turns out it actually was there, it was just a different tab. But because I clicked over here in the window, I'm able to see it. So you'll just need to play around with these and kind of decide what you like, what you don't like, what you use, what you don't use, and you can customize this. But if you need to add something that you don't see, just come over here to the window and select it from this menu right here. I can also change my workspace. So right now I am in what's called Essentials Classic, just because that's what I'm used to working in, but you can also change your workspace by coming up here to the top. Right here it says Essentials Classic. I'm working in Adobe Illustrator 2019, by the way, CC 2019. So if you're not using CC 2019, your Illustrator might look a little bit different and you're gonna wanna update. But just know that I am using 2019. So I can come up here and click on Essentials Classic. I can change it to automation, which is going to look a little more like this. I can change it to typography, which is gonna look a little more like this. There's no really right or wrong way to do it. It just depends on what you work on and what you prefer. I like to work with Essentials Classic though. The next thing you need to know is layers. Layers are huge. It is so important to be able to put things on different layers and know where your layers are and organize your layers so that you can find things. So layers are over here. It's this little guy right here that looks like, well, two little squares layered on top of each other. If you hover over it, it says layers. So we'll click on that to expand it. If you don't see that, again, you can come over to window and just click layers. Again, it's got a check mark by it because it is opened right now. So right now we've got layer 1. Okay, we've got a black square that's on layer 1. I can then create more things that are on this layer. So let's see, I'll add like a circle and an oval. Okay, so I've got this stuff on this layer. If I want to view all of the items that are on this layer, I just click on this little arrow next to layer 1 and it shows me a drop down menu. So ellipse, ellipse, that's my oval, my circle, and my square, my rectangle. If you want to add a new layer, click right here on this little square where it says create new layer. It kind of looks like a page with the corner turned up, and this creates a new layer. So let's create something new. We'll do red so that we can tell the difference. I'm going to create another square, and let's do a rectangle, maybe another circle right here. Okay, so I've got these guys on my layer 2. So I can hide them, or I can hide my layer 1. So I can hide just the things on one layer at a time so that maybe if I only want to work on a specific part of my logo or icon at a time, I can isolate it and only view part of it. I can also lock one layer but not the other one. So let's say that I do not want this square to move no matter what. I could select the circle and move it all around, but if I like try and click and drag and select everything, it's only going to select what is not locked. So that's really helpful if you're wanting to change part of your logo but not other parts of it, and you want to make sure this stays exactly the way I want it to. I do not want this to change, but I want to edit around it. It's smart to lock something. So you can have different layers that are different parts of what you're working on. You could also name your layers that each artboard is a different layer. Honestly, there are no limitations to the way that you can organize your layers, but please organize your layers, because there is nothing more frustrating than, one, going into a file that you've previously created and having no idea where anything is in your layers because you didn't label anything and you have to click and hide and unhide and figure out what it is you're trying to work on, or two, open up a file that somebody else has worked on and having no idea where to go because there's no organization whatsoever. So however you choose to organize your layers, that's fine, but the number one best thing you can do is name them. And all you have to do to name them is to double click right here where it says layer 1, and I can name this one black, hit enter to close it, and I can name this one red, and that way I know exactly that this is my red layer and this is my black layer. So if I want to lock the black layer, then I just click the one that says black, and it just makes it so much easier. So if there's anything you remember from this, please organize your layers. Something else that will be super helpful for your organization in Illustrator is making copies. So to show this, I'm going to open up something that I worked on a little while ago. It's an icon set of some cute little succulents and cactuses. Now, let's say that I'm working on this little guy right here, and I want to make some changes. I'm going to go in, you know what, I want to see what he looks like if he's really tall, so I'm just going to stretch him out. Probably not the best way to do this, but You know, actually, I don't know if I like that. Let me take him down again. Let me see if I would like it better if he's really short and wide instead. Oh, you know, I kind of like that. I'm not sure though. Let me pick it back. What if I were to go in and make him really curvy and rounded rather than pointed? Okay, so it's all rounded. Oh, but I still don't know if I like it. You know, I think I liked it better when he was really tall. So to go back, I'm just gonna have to do Command Z, 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 Command Z. That's gonna take forever. Plus, Illustrator only lets you do so many Command Z's before it's saying that's too many. What if instead I had just done this? Oops. Luckily, I hadn't done too many Command Z's yet, so I can go back. But sometimes if you do too many changes, it's not gonna let you do that many Command Z's. What if I had just come in here, selected this guy, Control C to copy, and then come over here and made a copy, Control V. I could have come and said, you know, I'm gonna make a second copy just in case. I could have said, okay, let's try this one, where he's really, really tall. This one, where he's really, really short and wide. You know what, now I'm gonna try tall and rounded, and now I'm gonna try wide and rounded. That way I can see all of my variations all at once, and it's really easy for me to decide, okay, I wanna go back to this and change this, and then I wanna go back to this one, but not this one. And then that way, once I get right down to the best one that I think is gonna be the best fit for what I'm working on, I can then copy that into my final. That is so much easier than trying to hit Command Z a million times and then finding out that you've gone too far and you're never gonna get back to exactly the way that it was. Something else that is really important to understand is the difference between a vector and a raster. Illustrator works with vectors, and that means no matter how big or how small I make it, it is going to be exactly the same quality. So if we look at this, I can take this tall, skinny little guy, let's zoom out. I can make him huge. And that doesn't change my quality at all. I can zoom in, I can zoom out. You can see it is exactly the same quality. Whereas if I have something that is pixelated, let me just place a picture in here really quick. Here's a photo that I took a while ago. So I placed this picture in here. If I zoom in, oops, come on. See, I'm not even zoomed in very far, and I can already see that it's starting to get kind of distorted. I zoom in really far. See how pixelated it gets? That's because this is a rasterized image, whereas a vector image is going to maintain its quality no matter how big or small it is. So let's get rid of some of this craziness here. Let's delete this one and then all of our little variations. Okay, let's say I'm finished and I am ready to export. In Illustrator, you can't just click File, Save As, because there's a whole lot of different options. So let's talk about them. We could hit File and then Save As. Where is it? Right there. But this only gives me a few options. Usually the options that I use in here are going to be AI, which is an Illustrator file, or PDF, which is, of course, a PDF file. It is always a good idea to have at least one Illustrator copy, because you never know when you're going to have to go back and make changes, and then if you only have like a JPEG, you're kind of stuck. You're either going to have to completely recreate it in Illustrator or just stick with it without the changes. So it is always a good idea to have at least one Illustrator file saved of anything that you've worked on. PDFs are usually, at least for me, I usually use them if I'm going to be showing them to a client, or if it's a homework assignment, if I'm turning it in, I'll do a PDF. Typically, they're usually for viewing purposes. At least that's what I use it for. So, Illustrator, PDF are probably the main ones you're going to be doing if you ever click File, Save As. But let's say that I want to save it as a JPEG or a PNG. I'm going to go File, Export, and then Export As. This is going to give me a whole lot of other options. As you can see, if I click on this drop-down menu, a whole lot of options. I usually use PNG or JPEG. A PNG is what you're going to use if you want to create a transparent background. A JPEG is always going to have like a white square or background around whatever you create or whatever color is in the background. So Honestly, the difference between a PNG and a JPEG is debatable. I'm sure that there's a lot of technical things that are different about them. I think that they're pretty much the same, and the only difference I see is the background. So usually I'm going to save as a JPEG unless I need it saved with a transparent background. So if I do want a transparent background, I'll click PNG, and I can either click Use Artboards, which then if I do click, oops, come on, just get this guy out of the way. If I click Use Artboards, it's going to save this entire artboard, meaning that my icons here will have this little bit of space between them from the edge of the design to the edge of the PNG file. Whereas if I were to not check Use Artboards, it would save it right up to the edge of wherever my content is. So if you want a little bit of wiggle room, then you want to click Use Artboards. So let's go ahead and click Use Artboards. I click Export, and then right here I can choose whether I want a transparent background, a white background, or a black background. So again, a transparent background is what we wanted, so I'll click OK. The last way that you can export is doing File, Export, and Save for Web. And typically this is exactly what it sounds like if you are saving the image to then be used on a website. And this is because files and images can get really, really big on websites, making it move really, really slow and load really, really slowly. And so doing a export that is safe for web is going to optimize them so that they are small enough and that they are a small enough file that they will load quickly but not lose any of their quality. So typically I found that whatever is already in here is pretty much what I need. Click Save. It's going to ask me to save it somewhere else, and voila. So that's the end of our first video with our organization and workflow in Adobe Illustrator. I hope it's been helpful, and I will see you next time.